Pregnant wife learns she's the side chick, mistress is the real wife. But welcome, dear listeners, to a tale unlike any you've heard before, a dramatic roller coaster of secrets, betrayal, and ultimate justice. Today, we delve into the shocking world of hidden marriages, unspoken alliances, and a devastating truth that shatters one woman's reality. Prepare to be immersed in the twists and turns of a story that begins with a vow of everlasting love, but soon spirals into a confounding labyrinth of deceit. As the threads unravel, you will discover more than simple lies. You will witness the unraveling of illusions, the rising tide of desperation, and, finally, the triumphant surge of retribution. Sit back, hold your breath, and allow yourself to be utterly captivated. Before we dive in, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. If you're excited about this story, let us know. If you enjoyed the video, press 1. If not, press O. Your feedback really inspires me to gather more uplifting and meaningful stories. Celeste Carter never questioned the warmth she felt when she lay in Jordan's arms. The two had met on a balmy June evening at an outdoor charity gala in downtown Philadelphia. Amid the glittering city lights and the melodic hum of a jazz quartet, Jordan's easy charm and wide, confident smile had swept her off her feet. Celeste, in her delicate pearl-colored gown, found herself drawn to the solidity in his presence. He was intelligent, articulate, and seemed to have that air of unwavering focus that made her feel protected. On that night, something electric passed between them, an unspoken promise of possibility. Months of courtship led to a whirlwind romance that Celeste likened to a dream. Flowers arrived on her doorstep, daily lilies, sunflowers, and once even a bouquet of her favorite orchids. They danced at formal events, walked hand in hand through Rittenhouse Square, and laughed together in intimate moments that Celeste had rarely experienced with anyone else. He was the epitome of caring, always knowing exactly what she needed before she even voiced it. From a comforting hand on her back when she was nervous to a croissant and coffee from the Starbucks on 15th Street when she was rushing to the office. But what truly sealed Celeste's love was how Jordan acted around her colleagues and friends. He'd show up unannounced at her workplace, carrying cappuccinos for everyone on her team at Morgan and Bradley Marketing, winning their admiration with ease. He listened attentively when her closest friend, Antonia, spilled stories of her own rocky relationships, offering sage advice that earned him the affectionate nickname Dr. Love. Celeste found herself praising him in every conversation, marveling at her luck. Even her parents, known for being meticulous in their judgments, were won over. They found Jordan a fine gentleman who treated their daughter with genuine respect. At the 8-month mark of their relationship, Jordan proposed. It was an evening right out of a storybook. He rented a private space in a chic downtown restaurant, the famed Vetri Cucina, known for its authentic Italian flair, decorating it with fairy lights and white roses. With tears glistening in his eyes, he knelt on one knee, produced a velvet box that revealed a stunning diamond ring from Tiffany & Company, and asked, "Will you marry me?" Before the shock could clear, Celeste whispered, "Yes," her voice trembling with joyful disbelief. He slipped the ring onto her finger, sealing what she believed was the start of a perfect new life. They opted for a small, intimate wedding ceremony, exchanging vows in a historic chapel near Society Hill. Throughout the day, Celeste's heart soared with happiness. Jordan's parents, or so she believed, were noticeably absent, though he explained they were out of the country on a long scheduled business trip. She understood. Life sometimes happened at inconvenient times, and Jordan seemed genuinely heartbroken that they couldn't witness his special day. After all, she reasoned, they would have an entire lifetime to know each other. Things took a complex turn 6 months into their marriage when Celeste discovered she was pregnant. Initially, the news filled her with elation. She and Jordan celebrated with dinner at The Love, a cozy restaurant near Rittenhouse Square, where they giggled over visions of baby names and possible nursery colors. Celeste felt certain life was aligning like a constellation in her favor. She would be a mother, and Jordan, loving, protective Jordan, would finally have everything he'd wanted too. She was certain he would be the kind of father who bought teddy bears the size of a small child and hovered protectively at school events. Yet, amid the bliss, she noticed tiny cracks in Jordan's facade. He started to come home late, smelling of cologne that wasn't his usual brand. Sometimes he'd have unexplained bruises, which he dismissed with vague references to work accidents. Other times, a defensive edge crept into his tone when she questioned his schedule. Small alarms rang in her mind, but Celeste brushed them aside, attributing it to anxiety or fleeting stress. She trusted him implicitly. He was her husband, after all, the man who made her feel cherished. Yet, she'd catch him in the hallway late at night, whispering urgently into his phone with the door partly closed, his back turned, as though shielding secrets. One evening, returning home from an unplanned hospital visit, she was checking on a friend who had been admitted to Jefferson Hospital. Celeste found Jordan pacing in the living room, cell phone still in hand. He had not expected her so early. The startled look on his face sparked a prickle of uncertainty in her stomach. For a moment, a silent tension hovered in the air, thick and impenetrable. He recovered quickly, kissing her cheek and leading her to the couch, but that uneasy sensation refused to fade. Still, she rationalized everything. He was probably working on a private contract or a crucial project. Jordan's office work often straddled the line between standard corporate tasks and clandestine consultancy. According to the stories he fed her, how could she doubt him? The man who had given her a ring recited vows to her in front of a minister and a handful of dear friends, and celebrated her pregnancy with tears of joy. Surely he wasn't a liar, or so she wanted, desperately, to believe. The facade, however, was about to crumble in the most spectacular, life-shattering way. Unbeknownst to Celeste, an elaborate web of lies was already woven around her, waiting for the slightest pressure to unravel. It happened one late afternoon when she decided to surprise Jordan at his new office building. He had taken on a mysterious consultancy job at a renowned pharmaceutical conglomerate, Baxter Fulton Labs, with an office on the 12th floor of an upscale skyscraper in Center City. On that day, armed with homemade brownies and a letter from her doctor confirming the healthy development of their baby, Celeste believed she was doing something thoughtful and supportive. Dressed in a chic maternity dress that accentuated her modest baby bump, she took the elevator to the 12th floor. The tinted glass walls opened to a corridor decorated with abstract art and lined with discreetly closed doors. She didn't find a receptionist or any signage directing her to Jordan's office. Confused, Celeste ventured down the corridor, glancing at nameplates, expecting to see Jordan Carter somewhere. At the end of the hallway, she noticed a name she recognized from Jordan's scattered desk notes: Harold Reitman. She remembered that name because Jordan once mentioned Mr. Reitman was his immediate supervisor. Heart beating faster, she knocked lightly, and when nobody answered, she tried the handle. The door gave way to an empty room, perfectly neat, devoid of any personal effects, as if it had been unoccupied for weeks. Disturbed, Celeste made her way down another corridor and eventually found a break room where 2 employees were chatting near the coffee machine. She politely introduced herself, explaining she was looking for Jordan Carter. Their faces mirrored her confusion. One employee, a woman with cropped hair and a Baxter Fulton Labs badge, reading Danielle W., its specialist, frowned thoughtfully and said, "I don't recall anyone with that name working here." Are you sure you have the right building? Celeste felt her confidence teeter. He mentioned you guys had an office on the 12th floor. He said he was hired as a consultant. The employees exchanged uncertain looks, then apologized. They had never heard of him, nor had they seen him around. Feeling the walls closing in, Celeste excused herself and hurried out, cold dread settling in the pit of her stomach. Could Jordan have lied about his entire employment? If so, where was he really spending his time? Questions buzzed like angry wasps in her mind. She attempted to call him several times, only to reach his voicemail. Her texts went unanswered. By the time she exited the building, Celeste's hands were shaking so badly that she nearly dropped the brownies. She sat in her car, forcing herself to breathe slowly while she rummaged in her purse for tissue to dab away tears. This was not the Jordan she knew. She decided on a bold move that same evening. She'd drive to Jordan's company dinner location and confront him. If her suspicions were unwarranted, he'd have a solid explanation. But if she discovered something damning, she needed to know. She used the calendar on his laptop. His password had never changed from the date of their wedding, and discovered he had an event scheduled at the Bellevue Hotel. She recognized the name because it was one of the ritziest places in the city, often hosting high-profile conferences and weddings. Night fell by the time Celeste parked outside the grand 1904 French Renaissance building. The doorman greeted her with a friendly nod as she entered the opulent lobby with its marble floors and chandeliers. Adrenaline, fear, and heartbreak churned within her as she searched the posted conference schedules for a mention of Baxter Fulton or any such corporate function. None. Puzzled, she took the elevator to the floor listed on Jordan's calendar. There, in a grand ballroom with floor-to-ceiling windows, an extravagant gala was taking place, but it was for a completely different company, an interior design firm celebrating its 20th anniversary. She scanned the mingling crowd for her husband, her heart in her throat. When she failed to locate him, she approached the staff, describing Jordan and asking if they had seen him. She received polite but confused apologies. No one recognized her husband. Minutes ticked by, and her chest felt heavier with each second. Where was he? Then, as if orchestrated by fate, she stepped into a quieter hallway connecting the ballroom to another event space. There, near a lavishly decorated arch, she spotted a lone figure leaning against the wall. His head bent over his phone, her pulse flared. It was Jordan. She rushed up to him, eyes brimming with anxiety and relief. "Jordan, what's going on? Why are you here alone? You said this was a company dinner, but I can't find anyone who—" He practically jumped out of his skin. His eyes flicked with panic. Before he could respond, a sultry voice broke the tension. A woman in a figure-hugging satin dress stepped out from a nearby alcove, her manicured hand resting possessively on Jordan's shoulder. "Honey, who is this?" The question sliced the air. Celeste's mind reeled as she waited for her husband's response. Jordan's eyes darted between Celeste and this mysterious woman, his throat working to produce words that never arrived. Celeste felt as though the floor had opened beneath her. She clutched the brownies, which suddenly felt like dead weight in her arms. There was something intimate about the woman's tone. Something in the way her fingers pressed into Jordan's shoulder told Celeste this was no casual acquaintance. A terrifying realization dawned. She might be standing face to face with a woman Jordan had been lying about all along. For a split second, time froze, and Celeste found herself in a surreal stillness. The brownies in her hands threatened to slip through her grip as she felt unsteady on her feet. Jordan's face was a canvas of dread, as though any explanation he offered would only fuel the chaos erupting in that hushed corridor. "Jordan," Celeste began slowly, voice trembling, "please tell me, who is this woman?" Before he could speak, the woman stepped forward, her glossy black hair shimmering under the ambient golden lights of the hallway. "I'm Katrina," she said calmly, barely sparing Celeste a glance. "And I'm Jordan's wife. We've been married for 2 years. A high-pitched ringing filled Celeste's ears. The walls seemed to ripple. Her immediate thought was that she had misheard or was trapped in a bizarre nightmare. Her heartbeat thumped in her eardrums as she turned to Jordan, searching for a denial, an apology, an explanation, anything that would make sense of the claim. But his shoulders slumped in what looked like defeat, and the lines on his face set into a grim acknowledgement. Katrina continued, her tone cutting like glass. He told me he was here to handle some business meeting, but I got suspicious. The truth is, we both found out about each other tonight. I've known something was off for a while, but I never expected another wife. She spat the word with venom, glancing distastefully at Celeste's baby bump. Celeste's knees nearly buckled. Another wife? Impossible. Her mind churned with fragments. Their wedding vows, the ring, the nights they spent planning the baby's future, the ultrasound pictures Jordan had framed on his nightstand. Had all of it been an elaborate sham? No, Celeste breathed. We're married. I have proof. We had a ceremony illegally, it seems, Katrina cut in, because Jordan married me first. We even spent our anniversary in Cancun this year. You see this? She flashed a ring on her finger. It was not just any ring, it was a brilliant cut diamond ring that, judging by the sparkle, could have come from a similarly prestigious jeweler, possibly Cartier. Celeste's mind scrambled. Jordan had told her his parents were traveling abroad at the time of their wedding, but had he actually been somewhere else, celebrating an anniversary with this woman? Everything around Celeste blurred. The hallway, the music drifting from the nearby ballroom, the hushed conversation of passers-by who had begun to notice the unfolding drama. She wanted to run, to scream, to wake up from the nightmare, but her legs felt planted, leaden with disbelief and heartbreak. Jordan finally found his voice, stepping between them as if he could quell the storm. "Let's go somewhere private," he pleaded, eyes darting around in embarrassment. "We can talk this out." "Celeste, please. What's there to talk about?" Katrina hissed. "You lied to me. And you," she jabbed a finger toward Celeste's belly, her eyes narrowing. "How far along are you?" Celeste barely mustered an answer. 6 months. Katrina's lip curled. She inhaled sharply, as though a wave of realization hit her. Perhaps it dawned on her that Jordan had been living a double life for at least that long, if not more. Celeste could read the fury and betrayal warring in Katrina's eyes. But overshadowing that was a cold, calculative edge. "You're nothing but his side chick," she said, voice quivering with anger. "All this time, while he played house with you, he was still living with me. You must have been so gullible." Celeste's vision swam. Anger, sorrow, and confusion welled up, forming a lump in her throat. She wanted to lash out at Jordan, demand answers, demand retribution for this unspeakable betrayal. Yet she also felt a wave of nausea. Her baby was inside her, reacting to every tremor of her body. At that moment, a tall man in a tuxedo, likely part of the event staff, approached cautiously, sensing trouble. "Ladies, is everything all right here? Do you need help?" The tension thickened as Katrina and Celeste stared daggers at each other. Jordan seemed petrified, uncertain which side to face. Finally, Celeste found a sliver of composure. She refused to allow her unborn child to feel such distress any longer. Without another word, she dropped the brownies onto a nearby table, turned on her heel, and marched toward the elevator. Tears blinded her vision, but she was resolute that she needed to escape the suffocating closeness of that hallway, the stench of betrayal, and Jordan's trembling half-words of explanation. From behind, she heard his voice echo her name, but she refused to look back. The elevator doors slid open, and she stepped in, trembling from shock. As they closed, her eyes locked with Jordan's one final time. She noticed shame and fear etched onto his face. Katrina stood a few feet away, her arms folded, wearing an expression of triumph mixed with raw fury. Celeste's last memory, before the elevator descended, was the swirl of those conflicting expressions, a reflection of the tangled web that had just destroyed her world. Celeste hardly remembered driving back to the apartment she shared with Jordan. Waves of adrenaline still coursed through her, but the moment she entered their living room, she collapsed onto the sofa, tears streaming down her cheeks. Each sob seemed to resonate with the echoes of Jordan's betrayal. Her phone buzzed incessantly with messages and calls from him, but she couldn't summon the strength to answer. Eventually, she forced herself to scroll through her texts. Messages from Jordan, frantic apologies, pleas for her to wait until he got home, promises that this wasn't what it seemed. She nearly smashed her phone against the coffee table, anger simmering like a molten core in her chest. The nerve of him. After all she had given and sacrificed, discovering that he had another wife, an entire life beyond their union, was an agony she never imagined she'd endure. Close to midnight, headlights flashed across the window. She rose to see Jordan parking his SUV in front of the building. Her entire body tensed. Part of her wanted to lock him out permanently. But she also knew she needed an explanation, no matter how impossible it was to hear. He entered, face flushed and drenched in perspiration. The moment he saw Celeste's tear-stained cheeks, he approached cautiously. "Let me explain," he murmured, voice pleading. "Explain what?" she demanded, hugging herself protectively. "That you have two wives? That everything we shared was a lie?" Jordan sank into a nearby chair, burying his face in his hands. "I never wanted you to find out like this." She almost laughed at the absurdity of his words. "You mean you never wanted me to find out at all?" He flinched, looking up at her with red-rimmed eyes. "I was going to leave her. Katrina and we had problems for a long time. We argued constantly, and I was going to end it. I swear. But then I met you, and I fell hard. I told myself I'd end it with her before our ceremony, but I panicked. She's financially powerful, Celeste. She threatened to ruin me if I tried to divorce. She said she'd destroy everything I built. I had to bide my time." Celeste's heart pounded. Could that even be true? Was he so dependent on Katrina's money, her connections, or some mutual business that he felt he couldn't break free? Her anger wavered momentarily, replaced by a flicker of confusion. "That doesn't justify dragging me into a fake marriage," she managed, voice trembling. "I believed you were mine, and now I'm carrying your child." He rose and tried to approach her, arms outstretched. She recoiled, stepping back. "Don't you dare," she hissed, tears threatening to erupt again. "You've put me and our baby through unimaginable stress." Jordan's eyes filled with sorrow. "I love you, Celeste," he insisted. "You have to believe that. I made a horrible mistake, but it was because I didn't know how to handle my situation with Katrina. She's ruthless. You don't know her." Celeste felt torn between wanting to believe him. Her mind flashed back to the tender gestures, the everyday sweetness. He showed her, and a deeper, primal scream that told her to flee and never look back. "You think I don't feel ruthless right now?" she retorted, hugging herself. "We got married, Jordan. We said vows. We planned this baby. And now I find out I'm some side chick," he grimaced. "You're not a side chick. You're my real love. I wanted to build a life with you, get out from under Katrina's shadow. My finances are tied up with hers, but I was strategizing how to split everything without losing you in the process." The words rang hollow. "You should have told me the truth from the start. At least then I could have made an informed choice." He bowed his head, seemingly overcome by shame. Silence settled like a thick fog between them. Outside, the hum of city traffic was the only backdrop. Minutes passed before Celeste broke the hush. "So what now?" Her throat felt raw. A flicker of hope lit his eyes. "Let me fix this." Give me a chance to end things with Katrina once and for all. You and our baby are my priority." She shook her head, tears falling once more. "You just told me how vicious she can be. And now she knows about me, about us. She's going to come after me. I saw it in her face." His jaw clenched. "I won't let her." A bitter laugh escaped Celeste. "Jordan, I don't even know who you really are. How do I believe you'll protect me when you've lied from the start?" He didn't have an answer to that. Slowly, as though carrying the weight of his lies on his back, he stood and made his way to the bedroom. Celeste remained in the living room, staring at the darkened television screen that reflected her grief-stricken face. She felt a hollow ache in her chest, wondering if she'd ever be the same again. Despite the heartbreak, a small part of her prayed this was all a grand misunderstanding or a twisted dream. Her hand cradled her belly protectively, a silent vow forming in her mind. No matter what happened, she would shield her child from this insanity. Celeste awoke the next morning on the sofa, stiff and unrefreshed. A sense of dread followed her like a shadow. She found Jordan already dressed for work, though she wondered what work even meant in his world of deceptions. He offered her a subdued good morning and extended a mug of tea, but she barely acknowledged him. He left moments later, the door clicking shut like a final punctuation mark. Left alone, Celeste tried to piece her life back together. Her phone had dozens of missed calls from an unknown number. She suspected it was Katrina. Unsure whether to block the number or confront the calls, she let them ring through. After a nerve-wracking hour, another call came in, this time from her closest friend, Antonia. "Celeste," Antonia's alarmed voice crackled through the line. "I've been trying to reach you. What on earth is happening? I got this bizarre message from someone named Katrina claiming she's Jordan's wife. She sent me pictures, some wedding photo from 2 years ago. She says Jordan deceived you." Celeste's stomach lurched. So Katrina was reaching out to people in her circle now, intent on exposing Jordan's double life. "It's true," Celeste whispered, voice quivering. "I found out last night. He's married to her." Antonia let out a gasp. "Oh my God, Celeste, are you okay? And the baby?" Celeste's voice trembled. "I'm not okay, but I'll survive. I need time to figure out what to do." Antonia wasted no time. "Pack your bags. I'm on my way to get you. Come stay with me until you sort things out." Though Celeste had always prided herself on her independence, she was relieved by the offer. She felt unsafe in that apartment, uncertain of whether Jordan might return with more lies or Katrina might show up unannounced. So she hurriedly stuffed clothes, toiletries, and baby essentials into a suitcase. Tears splashed onto the onesies she'd bought for the baby, a painful reminder of the joyous moments that now felt tainted. Within the hour, Antonia pulled up outside in her Volkswagen Jetta. Celeste hurried down, her bag slung over her shoulder, her belly a pronounced curve of distress and hope intertwined. She cast one last glance at the apartment window, once a place of solace and love, now only a reminder of betrayal, then climbed into the car. They spent the drive in tense conversation. Antonia's shock was palpable. She tried to console Celeste, but the magnitude of the betrayal left them both speechless at intervals. At one point, Antonia asked, "Do you think Katrina will come after you? She sounded furious in the message she left me." Celeste bit her lip. "Jordan said she's ruthless. And from what I saw last night, she blames me for everything, even though I had no idea he was already married." When they arrived at Antonia's townhouse, Celeste felt a semblance of relief. The place was cozy, with floral curtains and bright paintings adorning the walls. A spare bedroom with a comfortable bed awaited her. As she settled in, she felt the baby kick a gentle thump that brought fresh tears to her eyes. She murmured, "It's going to be okay. though she wasn't sure whom she was trying to convince. Hours later, as Antonia was preparing dinner, Celeste's phone buzzed again. She nearly ignored it, but something compelled her to check. The screen displayed the unknown number that had tried calling her before. Gathering courage, she answered. Celeste, came a cold, measured voice. "We need to talk, woman to woman." It was Katrina. Celeste's breath caught. "What do you want?" "I want to meet. In a neutral place. I deserve some answers, and so do you." Celeste's pulse pounded. Was it wise to meet her? On one hand, curiosity and a desire for closure gnawed at her. On the other, she was terrified of what Katrina might do. Yet, Katrina's tone, while icy, carried a certain businesslike formality. Perhaps she wanted to put the pieces together just as badly as Celeste did. "Fine," Celeste heard herself say, surprising even herself. "Where?" Katrina suggested a public cafe near Reading Terminal Market, at midday the following day. Celeste agreed, ignoring the flutter of panic in her chest. They ended the call abruptly, no pleasantries exchanged. When she relayed the plan to Antonia, her friend looked alarmed. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Katrina is unpredictable. You don't know what she's capable of." Celeste nodded, determined. "I need answers. Maybe I can find some closure, or at least figure out how to protect my baby." That night, Celeste barely slept. She dreamt of a child crying in a dark room while thunder raged outside. In the dream, she reached for Jordan's hand, but it slipped away, leaving her alone with the echo of Katrina's mocking laughter. She jolted awake, sweating and breathless, certain that her life had transformed into a twisted labyrinth. And at the center of it all lay a question she couldn't escape. Would she ever truly be free of Jordan and the chaos he'd sown? The next day, Celeste's nerves buzzed from the moment she woke up. She dressed in comfortable maternity jeans and a loose sweater, wanting to feel as relaxed as possible for a confrontation that threatened to be anything but peaceful. Antonia insisted on driving her to the cafe. "I'll wait outside in case things get heated," she said. Celeste was grateful. It felt less daunting knowing a friend was close by. Reading Terminal Market, a bustling epicenter of fresh produce stands and specialty food stalls, had a cozy cafe nestled near its side entrance. The place was perpetually busy, ensuring any meeting there would be in plain view of dozens of strangers' safety in numbers. Celeste stepped inside, scanning the crowd of lunchtime patrons. People milled around tables, sipping espresso or chatting animatedly between bites of pastry. She spotted Katrina immediately. She was seated at a corner table, an immaculate handbag draped over the chair beside her. Celeste approached with caution, heart hammering. Katrina looked up, her gaze cool and assessing. Today she wore a sleek, tailored jacket and expensive-looking heels. Her composure exuded confidence and a hint of scorn. Celeste tried not to let it rattle her. She slid into the seat opposite, folding her hands over her belly defensively. For a moment, neither spoke. Katrina eyed Celeste's baby bump and gave a mirthless chuckle. "Well, I see it's true," she said crisply. "You really are pregnant with Jordan's child." Celeste resisted the urge to snap back. Instead, she inhaled, determined to maintain some dignity. "Why did you want to meet?" Katrina sipped her latte leisurely. "Because I want to know how long this affair has been going on. I only found out about you a few weeks ago when I stumbled on some suspicious financial transactions. Jordan's been funneling money to another bank account, which I suspect is yours. I didn't appreciate him siphoning our joint funds to support his little escapades." Celeste felt her blood pressure spike. "I never asked him for money," she said, voice shaking with indignation. "We've been living together as husband and wife for almost a year. I never suspected he had a separate life." Katrina's perfectly shaped brow arched. "Oh, is that right?" So you're telling me you didn't know he was married to me? That all this time you thought you were the only Miss S. Carter? Celeste swallowed hard, tears threatening to surface again. She refused to cry, not in front of Katrina. Yes, she managed. He proposed. We had a ceremony. It was small, my parents and a few friends. He said his parents were abroad. I believed him. Katrina's lips pressed into a thin line. Typical Jordan, he's always been good at weaving stories. Let me guess. He claimed to work for some big firm, but never let you see any official documentation, right? That's his moo. He thrives on illusions, telling elaborate tales that hide the truth. Celeste's heart twisted. I truly had no idea, she repeated. Katrina leaned back, crossing her arms. I was furious when I first found out. I wanted to ruin your life. I still do, partly. But then I realized maybe you're just another victim. Jordan can be persuasive. He's charming, even, she sniffed. God knows I fell for it. Relief and tension mingled in Celeste's chest. So, you believe me? To some extent, Katrina said, shrugging. But don't expect sympathy. I lost a lot because of his games. We have joint ventures and properties I helped him acquire. He's indebted to me in ways you can't imagine. I have no plans of letting him off easy. Celeste shuddered. That's between you and him. All I care about is my child. I don't want any part of your finances or your joint ventures. Katrina studied her, as if evaluating the authenticity of her words. What are you going to do? Stay with him? Divorce him? Her tone was emotionless. But Celeste suspected she might be fishing for a way to corner Jordan further. I haven't decided, Celeste replied truthfully. He wants to fix this, but I can't even look at him. He's threatened everything I believed in. Katrina nodded, as though hearing an expected answer. Well, one thing is certain. He's legally married to me. You and your unborn child have no claim on him, at least not in the eyes of the law, unless you file some sort of lawsuit. And trust me, with all my resources, you wouldn't get far. Her tone was calm, but underlined by a cold warning. Celeste's jaw tensed. She refused to be intimidated. You can have him, she said quietly. I never wanted any of this drama. All I wanted was to build a family with the man I thought I knew. Surprise flickered in Katrina's expression. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it. Finally, she asked, so what do you intend to do about child support? Celeste hesitated. She had never wanted to raise her child alone, yet she also refused to let Jordan's betrayal define her life. I haven't decided, she admitted. He's the father, whether I like it or not, but I don't want his money if it means being tangled up in endless conflict. Katrina pursed her lips thoughtfully, reaching for her phone. Give me your number, she said brusquely. We may need to stay in contact. A swirl of confusion welled up in Celeste. Why did Katrina want her number? Maybe she intended to keep tabs on her or ensure Jordan didn't try to siphon more joint money. Unsure, Celeste still felt compelled to comply. She recited her cell number with a trembling voice. Thank you, Katrina said, flipping the phone shut with an air of finality. She lifted her gaze back to Celeste. For what it's worth, I'm sorry you're pregnant in the middle of this mess. Jordan can be charming, but beneath that, he's been a liability to me for months. Now you see it, too. Celeste felt an odd tug of pity. Here was another woman who had believed the same illusions, albeit with more knowledge of his darker sides. They sat in silence for a minute as the sounds of the busy cafe swirled around them. Finally, Katrina picked up her handbag. I'll be in touch, she said, standing. Without further pleasantries, she strode toward the exit, leaving Celeste alone with her swirling emotions. Celeste exhaled shakily, her shoulders sagging. She felt no triumph, no sense of relief. Only a cold emptiness remained, a realization that everything she had once believed was irreversibly shattered. Gathering her courage, she rose and walked out to meet Antonia, who stood outside in the drizzle, scanning faces with worried eyes. Even as her friend embraced her, Celeste wondered if she could ever reclaim her former self, or if the betrayal would forever cast a shadow over her heart. Days turned into weeks, and Celeste found a temporary rhythm at Antonia's townhouse. She went to her obstetric appointments alone, no longer expecting Jordan's reassuring presence. Despite his barrage of text messages, she maintained minimal contact, responding only to basic inquiries about her health. One evening, a knock at the door startled her. She peered through the peephole to see Jordan shuffling anxiously on the porch. Reluctantly, she let him in, but kept her arms crossed as they stood in the foyer. "What do you want?" she demanded. He sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. "I've filed for divorce," he said, voice trembling, "from Katrina. I want out. I'm done with her games, her money, her control. Celeste, I need you to believe me." Celeste stared at him, her emotions roiling like an angry sea. "You think that fixes everything? That all it takes is a piece of paper, and we magically revert to the life we had? That's never going to happen. You broke my trust." A flash of desperation crossed his features. "I know, but I'm willing to do anything to make things right. I've spoken to a lawyer, an old friend from Temple University Law School. He believes we can annul our marriage and then remarry once I'm legally free. I want you to be my legal wife, Celeste." For real this time? She nearly laughed at the audacity. "Jordan, I can't. I can't just flip a switch and pretend I don't remember what you did. And don't pretend you're doing this. For me, Katrina cut you off financially, didn't she?" He bristled, but guilt etched itself on his face. "She froze our joint accounts, yes, but I'm genuinely trying to fix this." He reached into his pocket and produced a small keychain adorned with a tiny ultrasound photo. "I made this for you. For us. I had to see the ultrasound images somehow, so I asked your doctor. I want to be there for our child." The sincerity in his eyes tugged at her heart. She remembered the man she fell in love with, the one who left sweet notes on the fridge, the one who massaged her feet when she was too tired to stand, the one who swore his love was eternal. But that man was now entangled in a labyrinth of lies that had irreversibly scarred their relationship. She bit her lip, tears threatening. "I can't let you back in," she managed, voice shaking. "Not now. I need time." He inhaled, nodding slowly, his shoulders sagging. "I'll give you space," he whispered. "Just, please, keep me updated about the baby." She nodded curtly, already feeling exhaustion from the confrontation. With that, Jordan left, a lonely figure disappearing into the night. Celeste closed the door, pressing her forehead against the wood, wondering if she'd made the right choice. In the following days, Katrina reached out via text, a curt message: "I'm done with Jordan. He's filing for divorce, but trust me, it won't be easy. If he comes groveling to you, be aware that he's trying to save himself financially. Don't be a fool." Celeste stared at the screen, her emotions twisted into knots. She typed a short reply, noted, and left it at that. She felt no need to engage further. Meanwhile, her pregnancy progressed, and she grew increasingly anxious about the future. One night, she confided in Antonia. What if Jordan never truly leaves Katrina? What if it's all a ruse? But then again, what if he does leave her, and I'm the one denying our child a father? Antonia squeezed her hand. "Celeste, you can't make decisions from fear. Only you know how deeply you can forgive. But never forget the damage done. Protect yourself, and your baby first." Just when Celeste began to accept a semblance of routine, she received a letter from an attorney representing Katrina. It was a polite but firm notice. Katrina was preparing to sue Jordan for fraud and emotional damages. Though Celeste was not directly named in the lawsuit, the letter ominously hinted at subpoenas and depositions, stating, "Miss Katrina Lawson reserves the right to expand the complaint should new evidence arise." Reading that letter sent cold dread coursing through Celeste. She dreaded being dragged into a legal battlefield, with her unborn child at the heart of it. She consulted a lawyer of her own, a recommendation from Antonia's cousin, who specialized in family law. The lawyer assured her that while the situation was complicated, Celeste had rights, especially regarding child support if she chose to pursue it. Yet Celeste felt claustrophobic, as though every door led to another confrontation. Amid this turmoil, a surprising text came one afternoon. "Celeste, it's me, Harold Reitman, Jordan's old boss. May I have a moment of your time?" She nearly dropped the phone. Harold Reitman was the name on the door of the empty office at Baxter Fulton Labs, the same name Jordan once mentioned as a supervisor. She hesitated, suspecting a trap, but curiosity got the better of her. She texted back, "Yes, but who gave you my number?" Within minutes, a reply came. Jordan did, in a panic. He said, "I might help you understand everything. Please meet me at a coffee shop near 30th Street Station tomorrow." Could this be another piece of Jordan's puzzle, or was it a fresh wave of deception? Despite her nerves, Celeste found herself unable to resist the lure of potential clarity. Perhaps Harold could shed light on Jordan's real work situation, if, indeed, he was truly connected to Jordan at all. She agreed, setting the meeting for noon the next day. That night, as she tried to sleep, her mind churned with questions. Was Harold friend or foe? Had Jordan manipulated Harold just as he had manipulated everyone else? She pressed her hand protectively over her belly, feeling the gentle flutters of her baby's kicks. "It's you and me," she whispered into the darkness. No matter what revelations came, she was determined to survive them for the sake of the life growing inside her. Yet an uneasy anticipation gnawed at her, warning that another storm was gathering, one that could bring her either liberation or despair. The next day, Celeste arrived at the coffee shop near 30th Street Station with her heart rattling in her chest. The place was a modest, old-fashioned cafe with checkered floors and handwritten chalkboard menus. She spotted a man who appeared to be in his mid-40s, dressed in a navy blue blazer, perched at a corner table. He rose the moment she stepped in, offering a polite, if somewhat reserved, smile. "Celeste, I'm Harold Reitman." She nodded, taking the seat across from him. Nervousness ricocheted inside her, but she tried to keep her composure. "Jordan said you might have answers." Harold's eyes held a mixture of pity and contrition. "I'm not sure if I have all the answers, but I can give you a clearer picture. Jordan once worked under me as a consultant at a different firm, Glenville Pharmaceutical Consulting, before he jumped ship to form some questionable business dealings with Katrina. He's incredibly bright, but he has a tendency to chase big payoffs. I watched him make risky moves, especially when he got involved with Katrina's money." Celeste's throat tightened, so there was some truth to Jordan's claim about being in consultancy. Why did he lie about Baxter Fulton Labs? Harold sighed. Because he never got that job. He interviewed, but they declined. He was too risky a bet, his references were spotty, and some details about his finances didn't check out. But Jordan insisted on keeping up appearances. "He told me he fed you that story to maintain the image of success. He was too proud or maybe too afraid to admit failure." Celeste's chest constricted. She recalled the day she'd visited Baxter Fulton Labs, only to find no trace of him. What about Katrina? How does she fit in? Harold's gaze darkened. "I don't know her well, but from what Jordan told me, she's from an influential family in upstate New York. They have a chain of private medical clinics." Jordan saw an opportunity to use her connections to land lucrative deals. He ended up tied to her financially in ways that gave her a lot of leverage. "He told me months ago he was trying to extricate himself. I didn't realize at the time that he'd already involved you." She felt her stomach churn at the idea of being involved, as though she were a side project. He lied to me about being single, Celeste said, voice trembling with anger. We got married. Now I find out I was never legally his wife. Harold nodded, his expression sympathetic. He told me bits and pieces recently, in a moment of panic. He said he truly loves you, but he was afraid of Katrina's reprisal. He was trapped between saving his finances and telling you the truth. And now it's all imploded. Celeste folded her hands, staring at the table's chipped edge. Her baby kicked, almost as if sensing her distress. He's filing for divorce, she whispered, and he says he wants to do right by me and our baby. But how can I trust him? Every step of our relationship was built on lies. Harold leaned forward, compassion evident in his eyes. I won't defend Jordan's actions. He made terrible choices. But I do believe he loves you in his own misguided way. He's frantic now, trying to salvage what he can. He said Katrina's threatened to sue him for fraud, and he's worried about you being pulled into the legal mess. Celeste gave a bitter laugh. Too late for that. She's already sending me letters through her attorney. I can't even sleep at night, dreading how this might harm my child. Harold gave a small nod, then hesitated before speaking. There's something else I should mention. Jordan approached me about a potential job opportunity in Seattle. He claimed he wanted a fresh start for you and the baby far from Katrina's reach. He asked if I could refer him for a consulting position I have ties to. I haven't agreed yet, because frankly, I'm not sure I trust him to keep everything above board. Celeste's heart twisted. The notion of fleeing to another state to escape Katrina's influence was both tempting and terrifying. But was that a solution or simply another layer of deception? I appreciate you telling me, she said softly. At least now I know what's going on in his head. Still, I don't know if I can follow him anywhere. Harold leaned back, looking weary. I don't blame you. It's a massive risk. I just thought you had a right to know. Jordan's been calling me non-stop, pleading for help. He said he'd do anything to fix things for you and your unborn child. I just hope, for everyone's sake, he means it this time. They sat in silence for a moment, the bustle of the cafe providing a soothing background hum. Finally, Harold cleared his throat. If you need any help navigating the legal side, I can put you in touch with a good lawyer. Or if you need any references, housing, job prospects, let me know. Celeste managed a grateful smile. She found it ironic that, in the swirl of betrayal, someone connected to Jordan was offering her genuine support. Thank you, she said. I'll keep that in mind. They parted ways shortly afterward. Harold offered a polite handshake and wished her well. Stepping out into the crisp air near 30th Street Station, Celeste inhaled deeply, letting the hustle of travelers wash over her senses. The meeting had given her more clarity, yet also more questions. Jordan's illusions were more layered than she'd ever imagined. He truly was desperate, but was desperation enough to make him honest? She passed by a newsstand, eyeing the newspapers and magazines with pictures of happy celebrities. She had once felt that same bliss, unaware that beneath the surface her life was edging toward catastrophe. Swallowing the lump in her throat, she made her way back to Antonia's townhouse, uncertain of her next move, but newly resolved she would protect her child's future, even if it meant forging that path entirely on her own. As Celeste neared the final weeks of her pregnancy, her emotions transformed into a tumultuous storm. Frequent checkups reminded her of the ticking clock. Soon she would hold her baby in her arms, a life that deserved stability, love, and safety. Jordan continued his attempts at reconciliation, voice messages expressing remorse, texts with snapshots of baby supplies he was stocking, and promises that he was finalizing the divorce. Katrina's lawsuit against him had launched in full force, and rumors swirled that she was determined to bleed him dry financially. During one particularly restless night, Celeste found herself scrolling through her phone in the dim glow of the guest room lamp. She paused at the ultrasound photos Jordan had once emailed her. He had captioned them with sweet notes, "Our future dreamer, little miracle." She recalled the flutter of excitement she'd felt, the unshakable belief that Jordan was her partner in this journey. Now, those memories were fraught with sorrow. The next morning, at a routine prenatal visit, Celeste was informed that her blood pressure was slightly elevated. Her OB-GYN doctor, Nina Campbell, an established doctor at Penn Medicine, told her, "You must reduce stress. You're approaching a critical phase of your pregnancy, and unnecessary turmoil can complicate matters for both you and the baby." Celeste nodded, tears threatening. If only it were so easy to banish the chaos of her life. That afternoon, she received a message from Jordan. This one was different in tone, almost frantic. "Katrina escalated the lawsuit. She froze all my accounts. Please, Celeste, I need to talk. I'm losing everything. I'm staying at the embassy suites near the airport. Can we meet?" A wave of conflict washed over her. On one hand, she wanted nothing more than to cut ties. On the other, he was still the father of her child. If he was truly in dire straits, might he do something reckless? And could that ultimately harm her baby's chances for child support or a stable future? That evening, she disclosed the text to Antonia, who looked understandably wary. "Cel, you know he's manipulative. He might just be trying to guilt you into something." Celeste hugged her belly, feeling the baby shift. "I know, but I can't ignore him. Not when he's practically on the streets, or so he says. I need to see the truth for myself." Against her better judgment, she drove to the embassy suites. The bright lights of the lobby and the hum of travelers checking in cast a surreal air over the moment. She spotted Jordan sitting in a corner, hair disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. It struck her how different he looked from the self-assured man she had first met at the charity gala. He rose as she approached, trying to hug her. She sidestepped, arms folded. "Just talk," she said curtly. He exhaled, looking devastated. "I'm sorry," he began, hands trembling. "Katrina's lawyers are ruthless. They seized our joint account and reported me for fraud. My personal savings are tied up in the legal mess. I've got barely enough for this hotel room. I need help, or I'll be on the street." Celeste stared, numb. This was the same man who had once showered her with lavish gifts and illusions of prosperity. Now he was pleading for a lifeline. "What exactly do you expect me to do?" she asked, voice quivering. He raked his fingers through his hair. "I'm hoping you'll let me stay with you at Antonia's. Or at least loan me enough to pay for a few more nights while I figure out my next move. I already put a down payment on an attorney who's filing my divorce papers, but now Katrina's countersuing for emotional distress." She cut him off, her tone incredulous. "Jordan, I'm pregnant, stressed, and trying to rebuild my life. And you want me to give you money after all the lies you told me?" He hung his head. "I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm desperate. If I can just finalize the divorce, we can get remarried." "And stop," Celeste interjected, feeling a flash of anger. "You talk about remarriage like it's a bandage for everything. Marriage was supposed to be sacred. You shattered it once. How can I trust you again?" A flicker of genuine pain crossed his features, and for a moment he seemed lost for words. Finally he said, "You're right. I can't force you to trust me. I don't know where else to turn." In that moment, Celeste felt torn between pity and rage. She remembered Dr. Campbell's warning about stress, about protecting her health and the baby's. "I'm sorry," she murmured, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I can't fix this for you. I need to think about my child first." He pressed his lips together, eyes glistening. "So that's it? You'll just watch me lose everything?" She breathed heavily. "I watched you lie to me for months, Jordan. Forgive me if I can't muster up sympathy right now." She turned on her heel, heart pounding painfully. As she moved toward the exit, Jordan's voice cracked behind her. "Wait, I'm sorry." I understand if you hate me, but please know, I love you. I never wanted any of this." She paused but didn't turn around, tears wetting her cheeks. Then she walked out into the cool evening air, trembling, wondering if life could twist any more painfully. That night, she lay awake in Antonia's spare room, replaying the encounter. She felt no satisfaction at seeing Jordan's downfall. Instead, it magnified her sorrow. The man she once loved was crumbling under the weight of his own deceit, and a small, foolish part of her still yearned for the genuine tenderness he had once shown. But illusions had no place in her reality anymore. Her baby's well-being came first, and it was time to sever the final ties tethering her to Jordan's chaos. A few weeks later, Celeste went into labor on a stormy night that battered the city with relentless rain. Antonia rushed her to Penn Medicine's hospital wing. Between contractions and the swirl of frantic nurses, Celeste found herself gasping in pain, yet focused on the singular goal of bringing her baby safely into the world. After arduous hours, her daughter Luna Grace arrived with a piercing cry that instantly filled Celeste's heart with warmth and tears of joy. Holding Luna in her arms, Celeste felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. She marveled at her baby's tiny fingers and the way her eyes blinked curiously at the fluorescent hospital lights. For a few precious moments, all the betrayal and drama melted away, replaced by the pure love she felt for this new life. In the quiet aftermath, as she cradled Luna against her chest, Celeste noticed movement by the door. Jordan stood there, his face etched with emotion. She wasn't sure how he'd discovered her room, or if the hospital had simply allowed him in. A pang of anger and confusion shot through her, but Luna's soft cooing reminded her to stay calm. "May I?" Jordan asked in a choked whisper, gesturing toward the baby. Celeste hesitated, tears gathering. Finally she nodded, her heart racing with conflicting emotions. He stepped forward, gently taking Luna in his arms, tears slipping down his cheeks. "She's beautiful," he whispered, "just like her mother." Celeste swallowed hard, remembering Dr. Campbell's advice about maintaining a peaceful mindset for the baby's sake. She let Jordan hold Luna, but she stayed watchful, ready to intervene. After a minute, he carefully handed her back, his tears unchecked. "Thank you," he murmured, "for letting me meet our daughter." She exhaled slowly, choosing her words carefully. "I don't want drama, Jordan. My only priority is Luna. If you're here to help, then help in a way that doesn't hurt us." He nodded, wiping his eyes. "I understand. I want to be there for her, Celeste. I'll do whatever it takes." Before she could respond, a nurse entered, politely informing Jordan that visiting hours were nearly over. He stepped back, glancing at Celeste one last time. "I'll come back tomorrow, if that's all right." She looked down at Luna's sleeping face. A flurry of emotions warred inside her: resentment, longing, fear, and a lingering compassion she couldn't quite extinguish. "Okay," she whispered, almost reluctantly. The next days were a blur of diapers, late-night feedings, and post-labor exhaustion. Luna remained in good health, much to Celeste's relief. Jordan visited daily, offering help and sometimes bringing small necessities: diapers, formula, soft blankets. He slept in a chair in the hallway, refusing to leave even when Celeste insisted she was fine with the nurses. By the time Celeste was discharged, a fragile truce had settled between them. She allowed Jordan to drive them to Antonia's townhouse, where a makeshift nursery had been prepared in the spare bedroom. "You can come by during the day," she told him, cradling Luna protectively. "But you're not staying here overnight. This is Antonia's place, not mine." He nodded, contrite. "I understand. Thank you for letting me be involved." He went on to explain that he was close to settling with Katrina. Out of court, she agreed to drop the lawsuit if he surrendered certain assets. "I've lost nearly everything," he admitted quietly. but it's worth it if I can start fresh with you and Luna. Celeste felt a flicker of pity. I don't know what the future holds for us, she cautioned. My trust in you is still broken. I'll earn it back, he said, determination lacing his voice. The weeks that followed showed Jordan in a different light. He arrived each morning, gently rocking Luna to sleep, preparing meals for Celeste, and driving her to follow up doctor appointments. He meticulously avoided any mention of remarriage, focusing instead on small acts of support and kindness. Even Antonia, initially hostile, admitted he seemed sincere. He's like a changed man, she remarked one afternoon, catching Celeste feeding Luna on the sofa. Celeste nodded, but remained guarded. She had let him into her daughter's life, but her own heart was another matter. Then, in a moment of weakness, she glimpsed him dozing on the couch, Luna snoozing in his arms, both of them looking so peaceful that tears blurred her vision. She recalled their earlier days, how Jordan once made her feel cherished. Despite everything, an ember of affection still glowed in her chest. Could trust be rebuilt from these ashes? Yet just as hope began to sprout, a phone call shattered the calm. Katrina's voice on the other end, "Congratulations on the baby. I heard Jordan's playing daddy now. But you should know, I haven't signed the final divorce papers yet. He's never told you about the last clause in our settlement, did he?" Celeste's heart froze. Another secret? Another potential betrayal? She glanced over at Jordan, who stared back at her with an anxious expression, clearly overhearing Katrina's name. Celeste ended the call, anger flashing in her eyes. What is she talking about, Jordan? What last clause? Panic crossed his face. It's nothing. Just standard legal language about any future assets or spousal claims. Don't lie to me, Celeste warned, her voice trembling. I've had enough lies. If there's something that might drag us back into court, I need to know. He pursed his lips, his silence louder than any confession. And in that moment, Celeste sensed that the carefully rebuilt truce was about to be tested again, forging yet another unpredictable twist in their chaotic story. Thank you for accompanying us on this tumultuous journey of love and betrayal, where the truth unraveled under a spotlight of secrets. Celeste's world collapsed the moment she realized she was never truly the wife, yet in the face of heartbreak, she discovered a hidden reservoir of courage. Our story shows that trust can be shattered in an instant, yet hope and resilience can still emerge in the darkest hours. If you found yourself gripping your seat with each twist and turn, we invite you to stay connected. Like this video, if you appreciated the suspense, share it with friends who love dramatic tales, and subscribe to our channel for more riveting stories that challenge the boundaries of trust.